שבט אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבט אחים גם.
Shalom. It's good to be here all together. So we're going to sing about it. Let us hear all your voices. We're going to start with Hine Matov. I think it's page 10. I could be mistaken though. Here we go. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Let's do that again. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you all for being here. I'm Lucy, this is Sam. We're representing Biddy, and we also are very lucky and very grateful to have Emmett, Michaela, and Austin to help us with music. Before we start service, I'd like to invite up Keith as our board rep so he can give you the lowdown.
Shabbat Shalom once again. My name is Keith Cadover. I am a member of your board of directors and just here to welcome you and thank Biddy for taking over Shabbat services tonight. Also want to make a few reminders of things that are coming this week, including the big day tomorrow with 10:30 Shabbat morning services and 4 p.m. Purim celebration. Everybody's encouraged to wear costumes and bring boxes of mac and cheese to shake as your groggers so that they can be donated for our Purim food drive. Also during the week, we have a salon conversation led by Rabbi Molly about the book, The Sacred Earth. That's on Tuesday at 6:30. And we have a Zoom conference on deconstructing and responding to anti-Jewish ideas that is hosted by, we are co-sponsoring that, and it is on Zoom at 7. You can find in your newsletter registration links if you plan on being there. And then finally, just to put on your calendar, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Via either here or on Zoom is our annual congregational meeting. So as a member of the board, it's my duty to remind you to put that on your calendar and please attend and do all the wonderful things that we do there. So again, Shabbat Shalom, and if you have any questions, I'm here. If you have any safety issues, you can come speak with me, or if you are really interested in what goes on the Bima, you can join my worship committee, which is very small, but we are mighty, and we would look forward to more participation and membership. So please see me if you're interested. Thank you guys, and take it away.
We begin at the bottom of page 6. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, things to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block for young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We welcome in Shabbat with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. Please join us on page 2 for the candle blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Our Kiddush cup symbolizes the joy of Shabbat. Before we sing the prayer on page 5, we take a moment to celebrate simhas in our community. Does anyone have a simha something you are celebrating that you would like to share? If you're on the live stream, also feel free to share in the chat. Yes.
I finished something that was extremely difficult today, and
Great
Good job.
Yes.
I'll share Rick and I are going to Spain next week for her soccer team training.
Sally.
I'm happy to have you.
Thank you. We continue on to the prayer for Kiddush on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei b'ri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu Zikaron le'maaseh Bereshit Ki hu yom tevilah le'mikra'e kodesh Zecher le'tziat Mitzrayim Ki banu v'charta ve'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
L'chaim.
We continue on page 9. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure that we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So on So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace.
The Kabbalat Shabbat section of our service begins on page 13. Please join us in Shir Hadash.
Lecha Dodi is a poem for Shabbat in which the Jewish people welcome Shabbat into their midst like a bride on her wedding day. We celebrate that joyful spirit that fills the room. Please join us for Lecha Dodi on pages 20 and 21. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and when we reach the final verse, we rise as able and face the entrance to our sanctuary.
Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu elchem yuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shem u'tiferet v'liti la 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 dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor ha'bracha, v'rosh mikem nesucha. So ma'aseh b'machshavati la 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 dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva orech, uri, 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 shir daberi, kivod Adonai, la 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 dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
continue, oh, you may be seated. We continue now with Shalom Aleichem on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Boachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Seidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We transition now from Kabbalat Shabbat section of our service to the section of the service called Shema and its blessings. The Kabbalat Shabbat service gives us an opportunity to settle into the service and remove distractions. Now we are ready for the Baruch and our call to worship. Please join us on page 28 and rise as you are able.
Be seated. We continue now on page 30 with Ma'ariv Aravim, our prayer for giving thanks to the beauty of our natural world.
roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreyom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ari Arafim.
Now we have Ahavat Olam on page 32.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. What a great love, great love. What a great love you have given us. What a great love, great love. What a great love you have given us. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. Ahavat olam. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael. What a great love, great love. What a great love you have given us. What a great love, great love. What a great love you have given us. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher Anohi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha uvertecha b'derech u'shoktecha u'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha u'vtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti atem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sonya's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We continue now with our song of redemption and joy, Micha Mecha, on page 40. Please join us.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you,
Hashki Venu is our prayer asking for God to provide a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace, over us during times of darkness. Let's join together on page 42.
Lecha
We transition now from the Shema and its blessings to the Amidah, the standing prayer. The Amidah is the core part of the service. The prayers emphasize the holiness and sacred nature of God. We begin on page 46. If you are able, please rise as we face east and join together.
Adonai sefatai tifta ufi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Hasealot v'imahot, U'mevidu la'alib ne'vneihem, Leman Shemo ve'ahava, Melech Hozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Hashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechakel hayim ve'chesed, Mechayeh hakol be'rachamim rabim, Somach noflim ve'rofeh holim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei alvar, Michamot habal kiburot, U'midom elah, Melech menit u'mechayeh, U'matzliach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim yechol yom yuhalu l'selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh.
Please take the next few moments for your own silent prayer. When you are finished, you may be seated.
We join together again on page 62 for Yehiyu Le'Ratzon.
Yehiyu le'ratzon im refi, v'heyom libi lefanecha. Yehiyu le'ratzon im refi, v'heyom libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri.
Shabbat, we don't ask God for a lot, but we do ask for the healing of our loved ones. We think of those who are ill in mind, body, or spirit. This Shabbat, we are thinking of Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Amy Thornton, Stacy Hetzel, Jacqueline Terra-Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Vadim Barzam, Ellen Gottlieb, Vanessa Bianco, Paul McCready, Janelle Cohen, Glenn Letts, Jesse Early, Andrea Gorovich, Carl Wilhite, Ginny Gaston, Cindy Baleen, Patty Newby, Barbara Laird, Marion Laird, Michelle Arrigo, Joni Michaels, Joe Giordano, Sheldon Morgenstern, Roberta Carmel, Brian Ward, Joshua Kornbluth, Samuel Navarro Ibarra, Bob Howell, Colin West, Joe Dover, Janice Kaplan-Klein, Barbara Eselstein, Stan Habib, Christina Marie Lindsay, and Janine Morris. If a name has been mispronounced or there are other names to add to the list, please share now. And if you're online, please share in the chat. We join now on page 253 for Misha Bera. Misha Bera, Avoteinu, Mikor Abraha, Leimoteinu, may the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Shabbat Shalom. Tonight we enter Shabbat Zachor, where we remember how the Jewish people were not killed by Amalek or Haman in the Purim story. This is a story I, and I'm sure many of you, are very familiar with. This year, while I was reading over the text with Liz, who helped me organize this, so thank you, Liz, I noticed many themes popping up where I hadn't previously seen them. One theme that consistently came up in this story was the idea of bodies, what we do with them, what we put on them, what they're used for. The theme of clothing specifically comes up often. In the beginning of the story, it's made abundantly clear that King Ahasuerus and his royal posse are decked out in lavish fabrics and elegant robes. The text says, "There were hangings of white cotton and blue wool, caught up by cords of fine linen and purple wool to silver rods and alabaster columns, and there were couches of gold and silver on a pavement of marble, alabaster, mother of pearl, and mosaics." One detail I thought was especially interesting was the fact that it's explicitly stated 2 separate times that the fabrics were purple. Historically, purple is the rarest color to dye, as purple dye materials were very expensive and hard to find. It was a color used exclusively by royalty. So these are very clearly lavish, bountiful celebrations. But despite the abundance of the festivities, Vashti is demanded to dance naked. When Mordecai learns of Haman's plot to kill the Jews, he wears a sackcloth to convey his grief. Clothing, or rather lack thereof, is a reoccurring theme. I think it's very interesting that amidst the abundance of the king's parties, there is literal scarcity, Vashti being naked and Mordecai wearing a sackcloth as a sign of humility, while the king dons glamorous purple robes. It seems that clothing can offer both physical and emotional protection, and it's taken away from Vashti and Mordecai when they're at their most vulnerable. At the end of the story, after Haman is killed, quote, Mordecai left the king's presence in royal robes of blue and white with a magnificent crown of gold and mantle of fine linen and purple wool. Contrarily, Haman mentions wanting to wear the king's robes. So clothing can also be a physical indication of power. When the Jews survive and Mordecai's livelihood is no longer at stake, he gets to play dress up and wear the king's robes. So while Mordecai's glow up is a stylish one, it's not the main transformation of this story. We all know how Esther won the position of becoming the next queen through a beauty contest. But the detail that stood out to me the most was that the text explicitly states this is a beauty contest amongst virgins. The text says, "The king's servants who attended him said, 'Let beautiful young virgins be sought out for your majesty.'" High moral value is placed upon virgin women, something that is not only exclusive to this Bible story. This theme is still heavily stigmatized in our current society. The concept of virginity is understood in very black and white binaries. A virgin is seen as pure, better than, valuable. Her virginity is commodified. Once no longer a virgin, she's tainted, discarded, judged. Her value depreciates. The stigma surrounding virginity is especially clear with the language we use to describe virginity, or lack thereof. We say a woman has lost her virginity. A man has taken her virginity. She is deflowered, which for me, at least, elicits a mental image of delicate flower petals being ripped off one by one. This story illustrates that the woman's body is there for the man's taking. She doesn't have autonomy over her own body, an eerie echo of the current conversation surrounding abortion access. Another detail I had not known of before rereading this was the fact that Esther had to prepare herself for 12 whole months before she was allowed to see the king. There is a 6-month period of beautifying herself with oil of myrrh, and then an additional 6-month period of perfume and cosmetic treatments. Despite her winning the contest, she still had to spend an additional year getting pretty for the king. Another detail I did not know of was when Haman begs Esther to be spared after his plot is revealed. Haman throws himself at her to beg for his life. The text says, "Does he mean," cried the king, "to ravish the queen in my own palace?" No sooner did these words leave the king's lips than Haman's face was covered. King Ahasuerus is furious that it seems like Haman is trying to seduce Esther. Could this be the true motivation behind him killing Haman? The king clearly takes this very personally, but what if he hadn't? What would the end of the story look like then? Would Esther's plea for the life of her people have been enough on its own? Many say this is a story of feminist triumph, with Esther being a symbol of Jewish feminism. And I agree, Esther was very brave to speak up. But she approaches King Ahasuerus and asks him to please save her people through submission and docility. Esther asks, "If your majesty will do me the favor, and if it pleases your majesty, let my life be granted, me as my wish, and my people as my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, massacred, and exterminated. Had we only been sold as bondmen and bondwomen, I would have kept silent, for the adversary is not worthy of the king's trouble." Yes, her goal was fulfilled, the Jewish people prevailed, but she had to play along and act the part of docile wife. There is still power in stories about manipulating the system to your advantage, but in doing so, Esther is still fulfilling sexist norms. This is a story of submission. Had she not been so gentle, would the king have still listened to her? Esther is pure and beautiful. Does King Ahasuerus want to save her people just so he can still have her, his trophy wife? After all, there's nothing indicating he values her for anything other than her virginal beauty. This obsession with women's bodies and their purity is a familiar sentiment. We live in a hypersexualized society. Whether intentional or not, many parts of our lives have underlying sexual messages. Women are sexualized and objectified in both real life and in media, in which sex is portrayed as an aggressive, painful act. It's something happening to the woman. The story of Purim is not much different. The point of this story is that the Jewish people have escaped death yet again. But to me, the much more important and more relevant point is that this is a story of the woman's body. Though this may not be the intended takeaway, it's what I'm taking away from this year's reading. Had Vashti not been asked to dance naked, she would not have been exiled, the king would not have needed a new wife, and Esther would not have won the beauty contest. The Purim story, as we know it, builds on the idea that the woman's body is a prize to be won and discarded. Despite this story being thousands of years old, it is still relevant. Well, I think that can be the beauty of the Torah that many of us appreciate. I question the fact that stories about hypersexualization and objectification still ring true thousands of years later. One thing I find so valuable about Judaism is that we are encouraged to question, critique, and pick apart the text. Because we can do this, we continue to find relevance in stories today, even though we read the same stories year after year. The Torah grows with us. As I have grown into a young woman and proud feminist, I'm able to understand the nuance in these stories. I can question what the Torah says about me and my role in society. The Torah also grows with our society as we continue to progress. Questioning what our text says about the objectification and hypersexualization of women in society is not something Esther-era Shushan would have thought of doing, but we can. As we continue to grow as a society and as individuals, I encourage you to think about these stories from a more critical perspective. What are the underlying messages about certain groups of people? What biases bleed through? What stereotypes are perpetuated? I also think about what messages future generations will find. What will they see? What will they question that we hadn't thought of? Yes, we've come a long way, but we still have much longer to go. And one of the ways we continue to grow as people and as a Jewish community is to continue questioning our texts. These texts are very sacred, and it's a beautiful tradition to read them again and again. I also think it's just as sacred and just as beautiful to be able to question the underlying messages and see the meaning we get from these stories as they evolve with us. Shabbat Shalom.
The Aleinu is our prayer reminding us that we have a sacred obligation to work as partners with God to mend the broken parts of our world. Please rise if you are able and join us for Aleinu on page 283 and 287.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tekiru l'yotzer bereshit, shehu sam kalkeinu l'ached et shemo, v'gor aleinu l'chamlich malchuto, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamalchim hakadosh baruch hu. Ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech kol haaretz, v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. We turn now to page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish as we remembered loved ones that we have lost either in the last 30 days or at this time in years past. On this Shabbat, we are remembering Wendy Leberman, a staff member at JDS, Henrietta Winkler Nemetoff Dalk, mother and mother-in-law of Rabbi Arthur and Leslie Nemetoff, grandmother of Rabbi Alana and Noah Nemetoff Bressler, and William Nemetoff and Allie Andro. Alan Pease, congregant and husband of Roberta Pease, Gary Scott Kinner, brother of Karen Rosenberg, and we also remember Sidney Adler, Ted Altschul, Rachel Beller, William Block, Molly Brown, Harold Carlin, Sidney H. Cohn, Marjorie Coombs, Gloria Charlene Courage, Sharon Chirandishy, Sarah Dugosin, Shirley Edelson, Manny Falk, Audrey Pearl Feldman, Rosalie Gersh, Selma Gordon, William Gordon, Laurel M. Jones, Marvin Klass, Kathleen Marber, Alexander Marber, Zalman Newmark, Jerome Schiffman, Israel Stern, and Robert Vazen. If there are any names that have been mispronounced or there are others you are thinking of this Shabbat, please say their name aloud or share online in the chat. You rise now as a community and join on page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadav Yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Divrach Yotev Yamlich Malchute, B'chayechon V'yomechon, U'chayed L'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'golah U'vizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam L'omei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitroma V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei V'shusha B'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huyaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. We're going to end now with a Biddy favorite, the Nana song. So, if you know it, please join. Na 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 na. Okay. Na 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 na. And we end with Motzi.
Let's join together in Hametzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
What type of music are we going for?
So good.